Welcome back to the It's Just Sport podcast paper review. I'm Joanna Reardon.
I'm Neve Talon, and we are very excited to bring you what has been an incredible week of sport. We are first going to congratulate Rachael Blackmore as she made history, becoming the first woman to win the Grand National in the 182-year history of the event. She has quickly soared to the top in 2021, making her mark in the racing. Last month, she rode 6 winners to win the top jockey title at Cheltenham. She had two great quotes, I think, recently. One of them, which was, "I don't feel male or female right now. I don't feel human," which I think really encapsulates like how she's feeling. Like, it's obviously very exciting for her and very exciting for her whole team, everybody that's around her and supporting her. And then also, "I can't believe that I am Rachael Blackmore. I still feel like that little kid, and I can't believe that I'm me. I never thought this would be possible for me." So I don't know what you think, Joanne, but I think it's definitely inspiring, and it'll really, give young girls, young boys, anybody that's been following it, inspiration to try something and give it 100%. Obviously she's breaking down barriers and changing the norm in her sport, so it's something that's very exciting and a massive inspiration for women in sport.
Yeah, she's definitely breaking down barriers in terms of horse racing. We know it's a very male dominated environment, and she's completely soaring to the top. And I think that's what makes her achievements so much nicer. People are just treating her as a jockey. They're not treating her as a female jockey or, someone like added in for the sake of it. She's there on merit. She's there because she deserves it. And more power to her. We'll definitely have her on the pod when she's wrapped up her racing. I know she's going to Aintree this week. So yeah, fingers crossed for her there. And it's all very exciting. But we're going to move on to modern pentathlon because Sive Brassel, she was competing at the World Cup in Sofia. She made it to the event, finishing 27th overall in her final, but she will be trying to earn more points to qualify for the Olympics. So we do like to wish Sive Brassel all the best in what she's doing in modern pentathlon. Obviously, Natalia Coyle is qualified and ready to go. So it'll be great to see Sive also join her in Tokyo 2020 plus one. So yeah, it's all very exciting.
Yeah, and we will jump next to the rugby, which was very exciting over the weekend. England played Italy in the first game of the Six Nations on Saturday. The score was England 67 and Italy 3. To be honest, the score didn't reflect the play at all. Italy actually put a lot more pressure on the English side than the score line would make you think. Particularly in the first half, they came out, they gave it a really good shot, but I think in the second half, they seemed to run out of steam. You should go back and watch some of the highlights. I think England just had the kind of skill and experience to seize their moments, and there was a couple of little mistakes by Italy, but they actually, for the first half, they might have had 65% of the possession or something, so it was actually a really good performance by Italy. But unfortunately, anybody that looks at the scoreline won't know that it was some good play from their side. Ireland played an incredible game against Wales, finishing 45-0. They dominated the first half with 5 tries. We had 2 from her sport brand ambassador, Baven Parsons. We had 2 from Emer Considine, and we had 1 from Sene Naupu in the first half. In the second half, Dorothy Wall and Hannah Tyrrell scored tries as well. There was some great kicks from Hannah Tyrrell throughout the game as well. It was definitely a very strong first half, and there was a lot of talk about a little bit of a lackluster second half, which I think the team knows themselves. In the last, maybe 10 minutes or so, they really started, trying to put some more pressure on and kind of picked it up again, but they definitely lost momentum when they came back out after half time. Hannah Tyrrell was actually supposed to get married on Friday last week, which was cancelled or postponed, due to COVID.
And she's still getting married, guys. Don't worry.
Yeah, postponed due to COVID. And she obviously was in action, so she got player of the match, which I'm sure she would be delighted with, and she did have a cracking game. Emer Considine came off injured. We're hoping that she's back in action for the game against France this week. Obviously, 2 tries, brilliant performance from her. And, we hope that it was just kind of precautionary measures. She did seem to run on it for a little while, but then made the decision to come off. They were obviously streets ahead of Wales at that point. So it wasn't worth risking, aggravating anything and causing herself injury. To consider what's going to happen this weekend with France and Ireland meeting. in the Six Nations tournament. France versus Wales was a scoreline of 53-0 to France. So if you compare that to the 45-0 that Ireland had against Wales, it could be a very, very exciting game, and sparks a lot of interest given that some of the French team are professional as well. So it would be really interesting to see how Ireland stack up against it. Did you tune into the action? What was your favorite point of all the matches?
I did. I really enjoyed having selected Bevan Parsons in my fantasy league team. I really enjoyed her demolishing like the entire Welsh team. I know she didn't do it single-handedly, but from a pure, what's what I'm looking for, a pure vain and selfish point of view, just to see her up the stats on my fantasy team, I respect for that big time. No, honestly, I think the Ireland game, it was an incredible game. I think obviously it's great to see, it's their first time out in 6 months, in a competitive kind of, basis, to actually come off all guns blazing was incredible, especially because I suppose we hear so much about teams who are just in camps and then the fatigue from camps and then they're not really ready to play, like it takes them a little bit to get warmed up. They were just all guns blazing, like as soon as they came out the trap. It was great to see. One thing I did, I suppose, want to run by you, Niamh, was I had an article in the Irish Times last week, and then Sinead Kassan had an article in the Independent, and then I think there was a couple of articles on BBC, basically about the entire, I suppose, the setup of the Six Nations at the minute. And I suppose the whole idea that if you are a girl in Wales and you aspire to be a women's rugby player, like we hope a lot of girls would over in Wales, and you tune in for the last 2 weeks and you see your team getting, I don't want to be rude when I say slaughtered, but, you see them.
It's accurate.
Literally being whitewashed, like just totally wiped out. France destroyed them. Ireland, amateur, destroyed them again. A lot of people were kind of giving out about the players. It's not really the players' fault, that they're in kind of such a sticky kind of position. A lot of like their partners and their friends or, other people who worked in the WRU, the Wales Rugby Union, were basically like detailing, look, these girls are so amateur, like it kind of hurts, they're teaching 9 to 5, they're driving to Cardiff, to do training, they're coming back, having to nap, then they have to get back up for work again. And I think obviously being in Ireland, we're very used to that setup. We see that obviously within GA, we see that then within our women's national rugby team. And to be honest, I think really there's just a stage where Six Nations and the rugby unions, you just have to go like, when will something happen? Like, when will it change? Like then the Wales Rugby Union came out and they were like, well, it's all down to COVID. And as someone had responded who used to play for Wales, she was like, oh, has COVID been around the last 10 years? Like, I'm not too sure. And I know the IRFU are putting in Pathway. I know they're doing youth development programs, which are so good. Don't get me wrong, they have the under-20 team now, and different things like that. But I think if we are to talk about something that could make an instant impact, I think we have to ask some of our unions, well, why can England and England be pro and France be semi-pro, and yet other teams like can't, like what's the problem?
Clearly we could have seen that England have reaped the rewards from this, and should there be maybe something that's looked at where a number of players across all countries are supported as professionals or something, that it makes it a bit more balanced, that there's a number of professionals playing, a number of amateur, that doesn't necessarily have to be. We had the European Championships take place for rowing at the weekend. We saw all of the women's crews make the A finals, which is a massive step up. It was a really strong performance from the entire team, and certainly makes Ireland stand out in relation to one of the countries that's competing at this level. The women's four of Emily Hegarty, Fiona Murtagh, Emer Lamb and Afra Kyo won silver. It was a very exciting race. They kind of measured the racing. They didn't get overexcited at the start. Came through crews as required. They really moved up in the last 250 300 meters. They were giving it everything, and they were kind of tit for tat with England for a little while, and they started to move away from them in that last distance, and they made ground on the Dutch. And it was really tight. If there was maybe another 50 meters or 100 meters, who's to say if they would have caught the Dutch in the end. But it's a big advance from where they were in October 2020 at the Europeans, which was just 6 months ago. So it bodes well for the Olympic qualifiers, which will be happening shortly. There's 2 places left, but it looks to be that Ireland are in a good position. The lightweight double of Margaret Freeman and Aoife Casey were sitting in fifth at the 1 kilometers. They got out to a good start. They certainly weren't out of the race at the 1K mark. It just so happened that all crews were very tight. The Dutch crew were very, very smooth, very good crew to watch. There were 4 crews fighting for the medals, and Ireland just happened to be out of the mix. They were just that little bit behind, and they just didn't get up there. But it's really strong from the young crew. They've an outside chance of qualifying for Tokyo. We'll see how they get on and how they progress over the next few weeks. I think it was a big step up from last year, where they medalled at the under-23 European Championships, but it's definitely a good start for them for the season. The pair of Monika Tokarska and Aileen Crowley finished in 6th. In their final, they went out strong. They hung on until the 1 kilometer. They were sitting in 3rd position for quite some time. I think they just kind of ran out of steam in the second half of the race. The other crews went through them. This pair has obviously qualified the boat for Tokyo previously. It's a good unit, and they might be a little bit disappointed with their performance, but there's certainly more to come over the next few weeks as they start to sharpen, and we'll see what kind of shape they can get into. In relation to the 4 in the pair, there's been a lot of conversation over will the unit of the 4 and the unit of the pair remain the same as we head towards Tokyo. It's quite dependent on whether the 4 makes the qualification or not, because if the 4 doesn't qualify, could that pair unit of Monika and Aileen be shaken up? It's something that we're not sure just yet, but everybody is quite hopeful, I think, that the 4 will qualify based on their performances in the last 12 months. The lightweight scull of Lydia Heafy, she finished in 7th position in the same competition just 6 months ago. She went out of the blocks very quickly. She was rating 53. It was like something else. She was just off like a rocket. She went out. She wanted to lead from the front. It was a really gutty race. She was really trying to hold on and give it everything. I think, she knows where she wants to be. She's, really, really trying her best. And she thought, let's lay it on the line from the start. She was in 4th position until about the 1K mark, and I think she just really had nothing in the tank then, to the finish. But she certainly laid everything on the line and gave it 100%. She has said that she's learned a lot from it. It wasn't necessarily where she wanted to finish, but again, just 6 months ago she was 7th. She managed to get into the A final this time around. She's now finished 6th in Europe just a couple of months later, and we'll be very excited to see how she gets on over the next while. She's not out of the mix for the double, I don't think, yet. There's, again, more conversation about what the story will be with the double, but there will be other competitions down the line in relation to World Championships. And, if we see Lydia in the scull at the World Championships, she will be giving it everything there as well. There's more racing at the upcoming World Cup, and as we move towards Lucerne and the qualifying regatta, so it'll be exciting over the next few weeks and months as we see where the rowing goes. But certainly everyone's getting quite excited as we head towards Tokyo.
We move on to some soccer news. We move on to Republic of Ireland women's national team. They had a series of friendlies over the last week. So they took on Denmark, lost. They took on Belgium, then in Brussels in the international friendly on Sunday evening. They lost 1-0, but the performance, I think we can all agree, definitely deserved better. They created a lot of chances, but they just didn't score. And I think it's been a common theme. To be honest, it's been a common theme if you watch both men and women's Republic of Ireland teams as of late. But yeah, for Vera Pauw's side, it means now that they have lost their last 5 games in a row, which kind of on paper, if you take away the performances, it doesn't look too great, like written down. I think, to be honest, I think we definitely need something up top, like something isn't clicking, I think Grace Maloney, in my honest opinion, deserves any time that she gets in goals, because I think she is the top goalkeeper for Ireland at the minute. I think defence is solid and sturdy. I think there obviously are teeny tiny mistakes that they do make that can be fixed, when they kind of get back to club and then, reach back up with the Irish squad again. Midfield, I think, is super creative. You have the likes of Denise O'Sullivan. She had the highest pass completion percentage rate in the NWSL over in America last year. That's an incredible feat. You're talking about Denise O'Sullivan was up against the likes of, Davina of Brazil, Sam Mewis, when she was playing of the USA, Rose Lavelle, another one. And for her to come out on top, like, unreal. So we know the talent is there. One shot that kind of frustrated me, I think that kind of summed up the entire game, maybe last 2 games, was Rihanna Jarrett was kind of through. And if it was on her left foot, I know people were saying she would have generated more power. She took it on the right, and it kind of just petered. Like, it just kind of went, into the goalkeeper. I was a bit like, if that kind of sums it up, I don't know what it is. I love Rihanna Jarrett. Don't get me wrong. I
Yeah,
think I think her story is unreal. Everything she's done is incredible. But I think we just need something else on top. I'm not too sure what. Do we need like Leanne Kiernan to be like running in off? Do we need Heather Payne? I thought was outstanding again. I know she got player of the match. But I just think we need something else on top. I'm not too sure what.
I definitely think there were a lot of good chances in the last 10 minutes, similar to the rugby.
Yeah.
I think they had a lot of opportunity and they just didn't manage to get the ball in the net. But I know there's big news with Blessing Kingsley, as she's been named on the Conference USA All Freshman team. She went on scholarship to Southern Mississippi, which she moved to in January. Former Wexford youth player, but that's brilliant, and
Very
hopefully
exciting.
we see her develop over the next few years.
There's a lot of young like league blood actually going over to America, which is so good to see. Because I think we see like a collegiate level in America, it is the kingpin. Like it's where you want to go.
We had a lot of action in athletics as well. So Phil Healey was racing in Malaga. She ran 11:43 for the 100 meters, which is her third fastest time ever. She also ran the 200 meters in a time of 23:24, which is 0.25 off her Irish record. So she's certainly in good form, which we knew from indoors anyway. But it's very exciting the next couple of months to see how fast she can go. Ciara McGean won the 5K that was hosted by British Milers. She won in a time of 16:10. So it's great to see her on form. Kate Veal was at the Czech race walking meeting. She also won this. So it's just gold medals all around. She won in a time of 23:13. Alana Lally won at the Temple Invite in the 800 meters, and she ran a time of 2:06:28. Meanwhile, Grace McKenzie was also competing in the States at the Texas A&M meet. In the long jump, she jumped 6:35, which puts her fourth on the all-time Irish list. So there's certainly a lot going on in athletics and a lot of gold medals. In diving, we spoke last week about the World Diving Cup being cancelled in Tokyo. This is the qualifier for the Tokyo Olympics, which we have, three of the Irish female divers are looking to make the qualifications there. It's now been rescheduled for the first week of May. It's very short notice. That's less than 3 weeks away. I don't know how, how everybody's feeling kind of at the moment. That's quite difficult to know, but we wish them the best of luck. They've been prepping for this obviously for quite some time.
In Camogie news, we have recently discovered that the groups and the structure of the Littlewoods Camogie League, because they have been confirmed. Division 1 will be split into 3 groups, with the opening games taking place on the 15th of May. 2 of the winners from the 3 groups will go straight into the semi-finals, while the third winner will be drawn against the runners-up of the 3 groups in the quarter-finals. So Cork, Galway and All-Ireland champions Kilkenny have been drawn in separate groups. So very exciting to see Camogie. They had their congress over the weekend as well, Niamh, and they have now decided to acknowledge the role of the dual player within Camogie and ladies football. So very exciting to see. Hannah Looney tweeted her excitement. Cork dual player, as we know, who's always been a victim of scheduling. But it is good to see. It's good to see that they're moving on. Very excited for the Camogie season, to see what's to come. Obviously Cork will be chomping at the bit, as will Galway, and will Kilkenny obviously retain. We'll just have to see. In AFLW news, speaking of ladies footballers, dual and Camogie players, Orla O'Dwyer from Tipperary will face Eilish Considine in the AFLW Grand Final. Obviously Orla O'Dwyer is part of the Brisbane Lions crew, and Eilish Considine is on the Adelaide Crows. So Orla O'Dwyer actually impressed for the Lions in the semi-final after she helped her side beat Sarah Rowe and Aisling Sheridan in Collingwood. O'Dwyer scored 1 goal and had 11 disposals. In the other semi-final, the Crows beat Melbourne. Dublin All-Ireland winners Lauren McGee, Niamh McAvoy played for Melbourne. Sinead Goldrick is on the sideline with a hamstring injury. This could be Eilish's, it's very exciting, her second AFLW title in 3 years. I think she's going to miss Mammy K not being on the sideline. I don't know if you followed her on Instagram when she had the first run to the finals. It was like the most proud mom experience I've ever seen, possibly in my whole life. And I remember I did an interview with Emer Considine like separately, and she was like, "Yeah, we just booked the flights and just decided to go in that
Yeah.
moment." It's really great to see. So yeah, I mean, look, we don't want to pick sides, Niamh. We're going to root for both of the Irish gals. We're going to wish
Yeah,
them
for
all the
sure.
best, and yeah, no, it's very exciting to see, and bodes well for the 2022 AFLW season. I don't know if you saw the video up in hurling Camogie Club in Antrim. The mixed underage team, were like literally let out of the door, and they were all running out. They were like, "Yay!" And they were like, 10 to 12. They were like the cutest children I've ever seen, and it brought a bit of warmth to my cold, dead heart, because I was just so buzzed to see them. Obviously, we know the North
Yeah.
has restarted grass level sports. Clubs are allowed to train, intercounty teams. They're not supposed to train, but legally in the North they can. Like, it's not against COVID rules anymore, but the GA still saying no. We know that some sports are returning at the end of the month. We just mentioned Camogie. We mentioned ladies football last week. Non-contact is obviously going to come back. Indoor sports like basketball still not getting any acknowledgement from the government, which is brutal for them to see.
We know that there's been an exemption brought in for elite athletes from having to undergo mandatory quarantine if arriving from listed countries for particular events. So this will allow a bit more free travel between countries for anybody that is an elite athlete. There's also been talk about having fans back in the stadiums. There's been a bit of talk about vaccine certs, which could see crowds return. Ireland have opted into Europe's proposal for a digital vaccine cert. There's an article on RTE that said that the GA is hoping to have some spectators at the men's All-Ireland finals in August. I'm hoping that this article was just stating the men's and not leaving out the women's, because I think, obviously there should be as much effort put into having people at the women's finals as the men's, across any of the sports. I think it is exciting that there's the prospect of having crowds return to see some of the games, and obviously some of these stadiums are massive. So last year, they possibly could have trialed and had people spread out, the likes of Croke Park with 82,000 capacity. Like we could have tried something. But I also think it's a bit of a kick back towards people that aren't participating in sport at club level. Like, while it would be great to go and see sport, people do really want to be participating in sport. So the other thing that has been happening is there's been a proposal put forward by Leinster Rugby that has been approved by the IRFU and is in talks with the government at the moment. They're offering a pilot test to the rapid antigen testing that is being discussed, and any of the pre-match testing would take place at the RDS by appointment. The FAI has also discussed this, and they are looking towards bringing it into what they're doing. I think at the moment the GA is kind of stepping back, and they don't really want to get involved in that route at the moment. But
I think it'd be hard for the GA to, because they're standing over 1.2 million people, registered with clubs in Ireland. Like, whereas I'm not saying the FAI have less, but they are in a professional setup, so therefore it could kind of do it. But I was watching the Masters, and obviously fans are back, and they went through the rapid antigen testing. I think you basically booked your ticket, say, for Sunday, and 60 hours before your Sunday tea time off, you had to obviously have a negative test. And it was great to see fans back. I did get a bit anxious when they were all on the 18th, like on top of each other, like masks on, admittedly, and obviously they were all negative. But I was a bit like, oh, I haven't seen people that close in so long. I don't know how to feel. Look, I think it's a good thing. Like, I think it's something that has to be done. As you said earlier, hopefully with the RT article, that they aren't differentiating between the men and women's. Because I think, like you said, now we obviously don't know because of everything going on with the vaccine, but if 80% of the population or adult population have their first vaccine by was it June or August, why is that going to stop people? Why would you literally go, the vaccine is in you, and then you go, I'm actually just going to go to the men's?
To be honest, when I read it, it irritated me a little bit, because I was like, well, what about the women? Like, why aren't she just saying the All-Ireland finals, like just everybody? And I think that this should be, trying to get everybody opportunity to have crowds at the games. But one part of me is like excited to see that they are bringing that back, but also I think it's very difficult for your club level athletes, like people that aren't playing elite sport, to not have a clear plan of what's going on. it seems to be more events that are getting cancelled and no clear, like, are we going to have national championships in other sports? Are we going to have other competition in other sports? Obviously, there's NGBs that are promising, yes, we are going to have national championships, but there's no clear route. We know that they're saying non-contact sport is back at the end of this month. It's still a little bit of a which sports are on the list, not on the list, like with that. I don't think there's clear communication from the government or the NGBs as to which ones are approved and which ones aren't. And then even at that, there's obviously a number of other sports that are being kind of left behind. So you obviously have the contact sports, then you have the indoor sports that haven't been looked after at all, and they're like really struggling. I know I mentioned last week that gymnastics Ireland, they're really talking about it a bit, and they're feeling hurt. Like I've seen clubs that have spoken about it, and so I think from that perspective, while it is great that they're looking at having crowds back in, I think it's very difficult a difficult pill to swallow for people that want to just get back out there and play. I know you spoke about before about research that was done about the transmission rate.
It's 0.01
outdoor sports.
You
have people back in schools, you have all this kind of stuff going on, and to be honest, having the conversation around having crowds back for August, and we haven't even any clue about national championships and all that kind of stuff going on, I think it's getting a bit much. I can understand why athletes around the country that are playing at club level would be a bit hurt by the lack of conversation around getting people back out and playing. Or it's not even like, it's the clarity, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's getting a bit frustrating for people when they're talking about having people in for Leinster rugby games, and they're talking about having people in for GA finals in August. Like, August is not that far away. Let's start talking about rolling out the plans and the structures for competition and even return to play. Like, realistically, that's what we're at the moment, is return to actually train and be part of the clubs, not even compete at this stage. And that's the next step. And then maybe let's talk about the crowds. But anyway, we'll see what other people think, and if anybody wants to share kind of what's going on in their organizations, certainly. But look, we know that it's a lot of joy has been brought to the children up the north, and that they've been back out in action, and hopefully we'll see that down here very soon.
Incredibly jealous. I just need to highlight that.
Joanne, you're going to be on our screens very soon. Where are you going to be? Tell us all about it.
Super stoked, Niamh. I know we were just talking about getting back to sport and us not being allowed, but I not breaking the rules, because I am now employed to go to see the National Olympic qualifiers for Swim Ireland next week. They will be on the RTE player, so if anyone is interested, feel free to tune in on the RTE player from the 20th to the 24th of April. It is my birthday on the 24th of April. I will be sad if you don't get time to tune in on my birthday to watch me interview some of the top Irish swimmers who are looking to qualify for the Olympics. So yeah, tune in for that. It's going to be very exciting. Follow us on social to get the maybe behind the scenes, do loads of different things, and maybe next week, Niamh, I'll be in Dublin, you're in Dublin, maybe we can hang out.
Yeah, we might
outside.
We might have an outside podcast, a social distance podcast, so we'll see what we can bring you guys next week.
Woo! See you, Lynn. Cheerio.
Head over to Twitter and find us at hersport.ie and at JoanneO_OX, and on Instagram it's at JoanneO and at hersport.ie. So certainly check us out there and let us know if there's anything that we missed.